Amen.
Now, today, I am going to be sharing this project I've been doing, and I find it humorous because as I work on this project, more news comes up to verify it. I'm talking about just before this show, about 5 minutes before the show, I got a news piece that backs up what I'm saying. I've been getting them every day. I've been working on this, and it's I'm talking about news articles, things that you would call exposés, and I have read several of them through the years, but I find it humorous. Facebook user, okay, are you on my uh, thank you. Um, I can't tell if you're on my Facebook or on my group. I'm just going to take a quick look because I'm going to offer. If you come to YouTube, if you go to YouTube and look me up on YouTube, I posted the stream link. So if you want to join, you can join. Here's where I'm just going to get into this because I think this is a tough topic, and I don't know how long it's got to last, and I do have a ton of news for today. So let's get into it. Ramadan Zakat and Jihad. Now, I picked these pictures for specific reasons. Ramadan is generally the month where zakat is paid. It is also known as Ramadan Bombathon, which expresses jihad. But what happens which zakat is basically charity, people have to understand that. What happens when we start talking about all the money that you give during this month, which is supposed to be, this is the month that you are expected to give. It's not you're expected to give all year long. You're expected to give this month. In fact, if you gave all year long, you're still in during this month of zakat, which is just at Ramadan that just ended. You were expected to actually use a calculator and find out if you owed anything for all that you've paid, and you're supposed to make it up in that month. That's so that's the other thing, and we're gonna get into all of that. I picked these pictures. There's the Bombathon. Here's the military weapons bought and paid for with zakat. And that's why I picked these pictures. That's the thing. Money has to come behind this stuff. So let's talk about Ramadan, the month of double blessings for jihad. In an article published in the Egyptian daily Al-Haram in July of 2012, then Mufti of Egypt, Ali Gouma, wrote that Ramadan is and has been throughout Muslim history the month in which Allah helps the Muslims prevail over the enemies and grants them mighty victories. He reviewed the conquest of Muslims throughout history during Ramadan. And he said, throughout the history of Islamic civilization, Ramadan has been not only a month of worship and of growing close to Allah the Almighty, but also a month of action and jihad aimed at spreading the great religion. When the soul grows stronger and the spirit soars, and its inevitability affects the body, which also grows stronger. For the body is the mirror of the soul. That is why throughout Muslim history, Ramadan has been a month of great conquest. It's not said here, but this is the month of double blessings for your actions of murderous intent. That's the kindest way I can put it. I don't know if that's even nice. So I wanted to talk about zakat, and that's what this is really about today. In zakat, it's called in the beginning. This is the third pillar, okay, and this is where it gets important. It says most of the pillars copy previous beliefs and practices. So these are pillars you think about these pillars that we're told about, these 5 pillars, they existed before Muhammad did, before his time. They were pagan practices. Zakat, however, started with Muhammad taking 20% of the spoil, the booty, after raiding a caravan. This amount had to be set apart, including 20% of the slaves taken before. So he took 20% of the slaves. I want you to think about that. So everybody else gets, they put all their booty in one spot, and then they figure out what 20% is, and that goes straight to Muhammad. So you got 20 gold, you got 100 gold bars, Zakat, in his belief right then, was 20%. So he would get 20 gold bars. If you had, if you had 100 gold bars, he got 20. If you had 100 slaves, sex slaves, he got 20. Start thinking about it that way. This is how it started. However, Zakat is generally paid during Ramadan. And this is the interesting part. Now, I went to Muslim Aid and I used that a little bit, but here's what it says. Can Zakat be donated ahead of Ramadan? As previously mentioned, Zakat may be paid at any time of the year. These times include prior to, during, or subsequent to Ramadan. Lots of Muslims decide to donate their Zakat during Ramadan, as this is when they are able to reap the most rewards, as well as this Zakat al-Fitr, Fitrana, will need to be paid during Ramadan by all adults with food in excess of their needs. Now, let's talk about what Zakat is. This is where it gets interesting. Zakat, let's keep it going though first about what Zakat under Muhammad meant. Muslims give Zakat is of what is they own for 1 year. So while you may have earned 100 grand this year, if you spend all of that, you don't have one penny. Not one penny goes to Zakat. Think about that. This is not about what you earned. This is a wealth tax, not an income tax. So the actual percentage they pay, of Muslims pay, is 2.5% of what has been owned for 1 year. So this is one reason why Islam is not seen as a generous faith structure. It literally provides a way for a person to not give anything towards zakat by spending what they have. So the catch is, however, if you own a house or you own cars or other things, you have to figure out what 2.5% of that value is. And this is where things get. So if you got a house, you're going to have to pay the minimum that you're going to pay on that house. If it's worth 100,000, you're going to pay 2,500 at least for that house. Add in your car. If your car is worth, a certain amount, you add in 2.5% of that. You own clothes and they've been there for a year. This is the catch. So if you buy new clothes every year, then you don't have to pay zakat on that if you get rid of the old clothes. So this is where we start talking about value. You have investments, you have gold, you have silver. There are actual amounts of the zakat that is taken. So this is, this adds up. It's a wealth tax, not an income tax. And I think sometimes people get that mistaken. So the people who would really be in trouble here, having to pay a lot more than the average bear, would be the people who are born into wealth. And they would have to be constantly making payments, it would seem. You own several houses, you're having to pay that tax of zakat. So this is, again, I'm going to tell people, buy the book Reliance of the Traveler. If you don't have that, you really need to buy that to start to grasp some of the stuff we're doing here, talking about today. So I want to get into the hadith. Now, the reason why is because there's a question. Where does this concept of 2.5% come from? It doesn't come from any known place. Not in the Quran. It comes from records in the hadiths. So this one comes from Sahih. This is a Sahih hadith from Musnad Ahmad 711. The book reference is book 5, hadith 144. It says, the messenger of Allah said, I have relieved you of zakah on horses and slaves, so give zakah on silver. For every 40 dirhams, 1 dirham. There is no zakah on 190, but if it reaches 200, then 5 dirhams are due. So let's take a look at that. 40 times 0.025 equals 1. So that's the 2.5%. All right. And then if you're talking about the 200, okay, and then you times that by 0.025 and you get 5. So that's where this 2.5% comes out. Christians have to tithe, and this is on income. You're supposed to. It's, again, in Christianity, it is not mandatory, but it is something you are supposed to do, and that is 10%, and it's an income tax, not a wealth tax. This one is a hadith that comes from Musnad Ahmad 984, book 5, hadith 408. The messenger of Allah said, I have relieved you of zakat horses and slaves, and silver is 1/4 of 1/10. So 0.1 times 0.025, again, we get 2.5%. All right, I might be not doing, I'm not the best at math, so I'm trying to get this done the best I could. All right, how about this one? This hadith comes from, so you can take a look here. Uwada Malik, and it comes from book 17, hadith 11. Yahya related to me from Malik from Nahi that Abdullah ibn Umar used to adorn his daughters and slave girls with gold jewelry, and he did not take any zakat from their jewelry. Malik said, anyone who has unminted gold or silver jewelry which is not used for wearing must pay zakat on it every year. Oh, so if it's not, are you hearing these excuses for not paying zakat? This is where it gets interesting. Okay, so if you wear your gold, you don't have to pay zakat on it. Okay. Zakat is paid only when jewelry is kept for purposes other than wearing. Bits of gold and silver or broken jewelry which the owner intends to mend or to wear in the same positions as goods which are worn by the owner, no zakat has to be paid on them by the owner. And you know, you think about this. Again, we're talking about this 2.5%. Let's keep going. Muhammad requires zakat of the dead. And, you know, I'm still laughing at this one. So your mother dies or your father dies. Yes, they expect you to pay their zakat, their wealth tax.
Almost highway robbery.
You know, we have enough issues here in the United States and other countries where, you know, death can be expensive, and that there are inheritance type taxes that come along. But if let's say your mother died the month before Ramadan, they still want her zakat, the tax on her wealth. This comes from Sunan al-Nasi. It was narrated from Aisha that a man said to the messenger of Allah, my mother died unexpectedly. If she had been able to speak, she would have given charity. Should I give charity on her behalf? The messenger of Allah said, yes. So he gave charity on her behalf. So this concept of paying for dead people that died that year now have to, I mean, can you imagine being the child of someone who died? Now you're responsible for their financial obligations to paying zakat. Now we're going to get into what zakat actually is supposed to be used for. So that's going to be more, it's going to add up. So here's the other thing about Muhammad. When Muhammad liked something, he wanted more of it. So zakat of 2.5%, that's too little for him. So when he likes something like honey, this comes from Sunan ibn Majah, hadith 1824. The Prophet took 1/10 of honey as zakat. So you had 100 quarts, you had to give him 10. And, you know, he would have been happy. Okay, great. This just says something, you know, he makes these rules up as he goes to please himself, but this is kind of what we expect. Muhammad gets what he wants, but again, zakat is what Muhammad makes of it. Okay, let's get better. All right, so where does zakat go? The Quran states in Surah 960, surely alms are only to the poor and the needy and those who collect them, and to those whose hearts are inclined for the next, ransom for slaves and for debtors, and for the sake of Allah, and the son of the way, an ordinance from Allah, and Allah is knowing wise. Okay, this verse poses problems, starting with, how does Allah receive his portion? In addition, it is important to understand that Muslim scholars differentiate between the poor and the needy, something no other culture does. Then there's the next big problem is the passage, to those whose hearts are inclined. This speaks to paying people to convert to become followers of Islam. What do we call paying people to become followers of Islam? I call that bribery, but in Islam it's lawful. They will pay you if you become a new convert. They're going to give you money, and okay, that'll probably be the last time you get it, but they're
Yeah,
going to
that's
pay
one of
you.
the reasons this Islam is supposedly growing so fast.
Yes, in fact, I have been reading this past year. I've been reading about them making payments to new believers in Europe, and again, they collect zakat for this purpose. And wait till you hear what we're going to talk about what it has to be used for, which each Muslim is required to donate to, and that's where it's going to get really interesting. So we know that they have to figure out the wealth tax. You can go and you can find zakat calculators telling you exactly how much you have to pay. All right. And that's important. Now, if you think about it, that's not so bad. But imagine, I'm going to go back when I got this a little bit. I got this one out of place. I'm sorry. Muhammad took zakat given to support the poor and needy for himself. So we talked about the poor and needy. What if Muhammad decides he needs it more than they do? Well, he takes it. Sahih Bukhari, book 24, hadith 95. This is narrated by Anas. Some meat was presented to the Prophet, and it had been given to Barira, the freed slave girl of Aisha, in charity. So she was somebody deserving of charity. Definitely, she was a slave girl set free. She didn't have much food or anything. They gave her food. Aisha gave her food. But it was taken from the slave girl and given to Muhammad. Yeah, it's okay. But, that says something. Okay, let's go on. This is Sunan Anisa, book 34, hadith 42. It was narrated that Anas that some meat was brought to the messenger of Allah and said, "What is this?" It was said it was given in charity to Bariah. He said, "It is charity for her, a gift for us." What does that say about this prophet? Oh, you have to start thinking. He's willing to take from the needy, and he's not needy? All right. Now, there are 8 different types of the word charity here is zakat. All right, 8 different types. And I think this part is kind of interesting. And let me just get to the screen because I have something I think I have to read on this one. All right. Yep. Okay. So let me get to zakat al-fitr, given by the head of the family before the start of Eid prayer. There's tzedakah, is referred to in any act of kindness. Well, yeah, again, kindness is not. That's not the same. That's not zakat. Okay. So why they put that there, I think I have a reason why I believe it's there. Zakat al-mal, 2.5% of a Muslim's accumulated wealth calculated yearly, and the proceeds should be distributed among the poor. Is it 2.5%? No, this is misinformation. Why are they giving you misinformation here? Well, because they think that the non-Muslim is reading. It's not 2.5%, the accumulated wealth tax. Again, they call it a wealth tax here. But why are they saying al-mal? Why are they saying the whole 2.5% goes to the needy? That's not truthful. Let's find out what Sharia actually says. This is where it gets interesting. Sharia mandates how zakat can be used. Now, it has 8 categories of recipients. It is obligatory to distribute one zakat among 8 categories. Okay, so that means if you divide up your money, the wealth that you have to give out of that tax that you've decided, you've come to the determination, you have to divide it out. 12.5% has to, it must, there is no exception, go to the poor. It has to, it must go to 12.5% must go to people short of money. Okay, 12.5% must go to the Zakat workers. Okay, this is the administrative costs. Okay, 12.5% must go to those whose hearts are to be reconciled. Oh, 12.5% must go to those purchasing their freedom. Think about that. So 12.5% of Zakat in Islamic countries is going to purchase the freedom of slaves. Do you think they actually did that during Muhammad's day? During the Islamic, I mean, I have a hard time believing they bought slaves' freedom, but and this is in the Sharia, so it's got to make some sense. Okay, 6, those in debt. Again, it's required. They must give. It should say, and that's my mistake. It should say 12.5%. Must give that. Again, they have to divide this up into. Now, the 7, those fighting for Allah. These are jihadis. Okay, 12.5% of every Muslim's zakat, according to Sharia, must go to those fighting for Allah. These are for jihadis. And it's very specific how that money should be spent. That includes buying their weapons and anything they need to carry out their acts. So think about that. Zakat went to the attack on 9/11. That's the things people need to think about. How about this next one? Travelers in need of money. Again, 12.5%. That's the 8th category. So just take a quick look here. If anybody joined in, I have to keep going between screens. I apologize. All right. Can zakat go towards building a mosque? Now, did you hear anything in there that led you to believe that could happen? It says,
No.
Did anything that was given tell you that you could give money, your zakat, to a mosque and that it would support the Well, let's see, that you could give 12.5% of your zakat, and you could, maybe that might work because if the people who are working in the mosque are considered administrators of zakat, okay, that would cover it. Would that cover the cost of the building, the repairs, and everything else? The salaries? No. So this is something to think about. And again, if you're looking at the 8 categories, there's nothing there to cover the imam. There's nothing there to cover anything else. So they're probably looking for a little bit more than your zakat. So this is something to think about. Again, the wafer, for the cause of Allah, those in debt, those in bondage, such as captives and slaves, new Muslims. Again, that's bribery. Zakat administrators, such as charity. Oops, got to go back one. The needy, someone in hardship, the poor. Again, no other faith structure differentiates between the needy and the poor. I don't know why they consider this important. I can't figure that out. But for some reason, they do see that it is important. Let's keep going. 1/8 of zakat must finance jihad. Well, let's keep thinking about that. 1/8 of zakat must finance. Oops, go back a bit. Gotta get my mouse back. All right. And here we go. All right. 1/8 is the equivalent of 12.5% of all zakat donated by a person each year that must go to paying for people who wage jihad. Some Muslims will claim this is a lie, but it's recorded in Sharia for all to see. We get this from Reliance of the Traveler, H 8.17. The seventh category is those fighting for Allah, meaning those engaged in Islamic military for whom no salary has been allotted in the army roster. The comment here is that those who are volunteers for jihad without any payment, they are given enough to suffice them for the operation. Even if they're wealthy, they get weapons, mounts, clothing, expenses. So what you think about that? All the money that was, that goes towards an act of terrorism, Islamic terrorism, that every dime of that is supposed to be paid for by zakat. Think about the Muslims in your community. They are required to spend, every one of them is required to spend 1/8 of their zakat towards jihad. Do they know that? I'm not saying they all do, but it should give you reason to think. Yeah, let's go back. Okay. Muslim Matters uses jihad as a method of financing. This just blew my mind when I saw this. Like I said, I've been working on this for about a week. So this article came up, and I'm like, really? Article 2 said, can I give my zakat to an Islamic educational cause? And I'm reading this. It says, the second article in this discussion, can I give my zakat to an Islamic educational cause? The article was written by Dr. Sheikh Usama Al-Azami. The main purpose of the article is to explain the seventh category. The seventh category, we just covered it, of those eligible to receive zakat funds. Anyone striving in God's path, striving. We were talking about making war. So if we look at it this way, if they're calling this civilization jihad, does that work? If you go down a little bit farther, it does say, in a very approachable way for the average Muslim, this article explains how the term jihad has various meanings and how there is a legitimate scholarly difference of opinion who can receive zakat. Oh, so can zakat be used? Here's the other opinion on this. This is where it gets interesting. Can zakat be used? Can it be donated for? Can zakat be donated for education? Again, this comes from muslimiaid.org. Educational institutions like schools aren't eligible for receiving zakat, as zakat payments are intended to provide someone who has nothing with something. However, if the students are eligible for zakat, it would be possible to donate to them. Think about what we've been saying here. Zakat, education. Can you see this? Can you see education? Oh, hey, thank you for coming and joining us, Eric. This is the scary stuff. Zakat can't be used for education. And I say it's kind of scary because I've been working on this for about a week, and I really started pounding it out the past couple of days. I gather information and then I put it together. So let's look at this next one. Islamic charities discovered to support jihad. Everyone should be familiar with this one. The Holy Land Foundation Relief and Development Organization. It was closed in the United States. They supported Hamas and closed. They were closed. ISNA, MSA, CARE, and many mosques supported this as an eligible zakat group, indicating they knew it was financing jihadis. Why? Because the only way this organization could be zakat eligible is if it was the seventh category of zakat. Now, this is something we need to pay attention to, because this is telling us how we can identify jihadi sympathizing organizations when they say there's zakat eligible and they don't fit in any of the other 7 categories. They are probably financing jihad, which would make them zakat eligible. All right, Islamic relief. Now, let me pull up this article. I recommend everybody look at this. This is just mind-numbing, this amount. of information. This is why I put the links in. I'm going to put this link in here too for everybody. I think this information is incredibly valuable. Let me just copy this. Come on, open up. Here we go.
Wow, this is really shocking. I mean, I've never even heard about this before. This is shocking to me.
I've been spending about a week. I've been a week working on this, and it really hit me. You know, Ramadan is the month of double blessings for jihad. Ramadan is the month you're supposed to pay your zakat. Ramadan, I mean, all this stuff that's going on. It's people forget, okay, that the people who give to, who are the financiers for jihad, are the ones who are supposed to, they're supposed to get the same blessings as the jihadis. Well, when are they? How do they end up becoming eligible for the jihadis? Because the zakat allows them to do this, and this is where you know, I look at this information and I find it mind-numbing that we don't know this stuff. And what bothers me the most out of all of this, yes,
I have a question. What's the percentage of the Muslims that know about this?
Probably the same percentage that know how to read Arabic.
2%.
Yeah, I put it closer to 10 or 20%. That's my belief structure on this. I think it's a little bit higher than we would think. I think that they are, as more Muslims live in Western countries. This is going to be the strange one way people might not get this. As more Muslims live in Western countries, they're going to find that they can either read Arabic or they'll just pick up a Quran translated by someone and they'll read it. Will they pick up Reliance of the Traveler? Why not? They're in a Western country. No one's going to stop them from reading it. Oh, so I'm starting to think, you know, this information is more out there. Now, what does this say about every mosque today? If any mosque considers themselves zakat eligible, are they saying that they are receiving funds as zakat administrators, or are they saying they're receiving funds to go towards jihad? Because according to the 8 categories, I'm going to go back to them again. There is nothing here that finances a mosque. Nothing.
Can I ask? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a few questions. This is just kind of shocking. I mean, I don't know, my experience with ICNA and ISNA and MSA, it's like, I would never think that they would even accept any of this stuff. So it's like, where, like, tell me about the research. I'm sorry I came in a little bit later. It's kind of horrifying because, I mean, from when I've been to some of these events and stuff like that, and it seems like they're, you know, relatively nice people, and Muslims, they want to help the poor and stuff. So, I mean, this is kind of shocking.
The MSA is the first Muslim Brotherhood organization in the United States. And they're the first recognized Muslim Brotherhood organization in the United States. They created ISNA. All right. So that is Muslim Brotherhood. And when we look at it this way, if these are Muslim Brotherhood organizations, they endorse jihad, civilization jihad. So they will receive zakat in the belief that what they are doing is an act of jihad. So that's their justification. They believe they are fighting for Allah by doing a nonviolent war and creating a platform for Islam to be spread, to force Sharia upon the non-Muslim. And this is the actual, again, you're looking at this, is when you look at these 8 categories, I mean, Eric, I know you're here. Can you, because anybody tell me if you see anything in these 8 categories that would support a mosque? Besides,
that's okay. That's what I'm looking for. And the reason why I say that is because my wife is the bookkeeper for our church, and we have quarterly business meetings, and she has to provide a 10-column sheet or whatever it is.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Of all the disbursements, all of the collections, everything, every dime that goes to that church is accounted for on this spreadsheet. She has to list it.
Yeah.
And when we start looking at, okay, the biggest cost is going to be the pastor's salary, but then I don't see a imam salary here. Is there one on here?
No.
Zakat workers admin cost. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's how I'm looking at. That's the only place I can see that you would be paying. Okay, administrative costs, but then you're only paying, if you're only paying administrative costs, you're only getting 12.5% of a person's zakat. This is where it really reduces what the person's receiving. Again, they only pay 2.5%, and it's a wealth tax, not an income tax. That's extremely important to understand. This is not an income tax. It's something. It's on zakat is on what you have owned for a year. It's only on what you have owned for a year. So if you've owned a house, yeah, you have to pay that. So yes, and UA just said, my understanding is zakat is not allowed to be paid to a mosque. That's
okay.
Exactly.
So let me ask this then. So if I have let's say I have a $300,000 house, and that is my net worth. Okay. So okay. I have to pay. Because that is the amount that I have. That's the net money that I have. My net worth.
Wealth, not money that it has to be wealth.
So okay. So it's not like a house or anything. It just has to be money.
Your house is part of your wealth.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. I have to pay. I'm going to have to pay at least
2.5%.
$7,500 a year, just because just on the value of my house alone. That's not my cars. That's not my other properties. I mean,
then
that's
you have to add in. Okay, even to the point where you're adding in your clothing, the value of your clothing, the value of.
That's not a lot.
Livestock, if you have livestock, I mean the value of this. So there's ways to get out of paying a lot of zakat. So you can transfer, you can give money you can transfer things, and I think there's a lot of cheating that is done within the Islamic community to avoid paying so much. But this
you would have the same thing with the Christians. I mean, we're supposed to pay 10%.
Yeah, I know, but then we're not. Again, we're supposed to. It's not a mandatory thing. However,
no, it's not. No,
in Islam, it's mandatory.
If it was, there'd be nobody in the church. Nobody pays 10%. Well, I'm not saying nobody, but I mean, a lot of people don't. I mean, when you're in the church, I mean, you drop a $5 bill in the collection plate every week, and you drive, a Ford F-150 that's only a year old. I don't know. It's just
so let's go back here.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is the stuff. Now, I think it was really important what Isa was saying. How could they receive? Now, Holy Land Foundation was endorsed again by Hamas, by ISNA, by MS, by Muslim students, all the Muslim Brotherhood organizations. I say CARE, but CARE was actually created just after or just before this went to court. CARE is named as a co-conspirator in this trial. So is ISNA. So unindicted co-conspirators, I have to say. All right, let's look at this one, Islamic Relief. Now, I put the link in the chat room to this. Why did I do that? Because I have to see if I can go to page, what was it, page 10? You can go in, you can see why this organization, they called it's eligible. They'll say they're giving money to certain groups and stuff. But if you look at the organization, let me just go. I'm looking at the executive summary. I'm on page 3 here. It says terror finance. Islamic Relief has long been accused of funding terror. Both Israel and the United Arab Emirates have designated Islamic Relief as a terror financing organization. In 2005, Russian authorities accused Islamic Relief of supporting terrorism in Chechnya. And in 2012, the Swiss banking giant UBS closed down Islamic Relief's accounts, blocking donations coming from customers to the charity, reportedly over terror financing fears. 4 years later, HSBC did the same. In the Gaza Strip, Islamic Relief funds, organizations closely linked to the terror organization Hamas. In February 2015, for example, Islamic Relief UK, using Swedish monies, funded a project run by Al-Falah Benevolent Society to provide for displaced families. Al-Falah is run by senior Hamas figure Ramadan Bombathon. and Jamal Hamdi al-Haddad, who manages a Hamas-run Hebrew language program for Palestinians in Gaza titled Know Your Enemy. What do you think that money goes towards? And then they endorse hate preachers and on and on and on. So some of this stuff, you sit there and you go, wait a minute, is that even possible? Yes, that's the stuff that gets you. But there's more than this. All right. And let's go. Okay. How about this one? Let me pull this one up. And I'll put this in the chat room just a minute. Now, I love the Investigative Project on Terrorism, one of the most highly respected organizations out there. And here we go. And that should be in the chat room now. I recommend this website to everybody. And let me read this. This is about an organization. This is the first organization I'd heard of before. I heard about the Holy Land Foundation, but I slightly heard of this one beforehand, and I didn't know why, but I'd heard of it. Okay. I'm just going to read the article. This is by Stephen Landman for Investigative Project on Terrorism. New details show Islamic Charity funded Chechen militants. Pete Seta, the founder of Islamic Charity in Oregon, funneled $130,000 to an organization that required its graduates to commit acts of terrorism. A previously unreleased interview with a former Russian Federal Security Service operative shows the new details into Seta's financial dealings and his leadership of the now defunct Al-Haramanian, I can never pronounce that correctly, Haramanian Islamic Foundation were revealed in a sentencing memorandum filed. Again, this was written in 2010. So this is back in 2010 that the
I think it's Al-Haramain. Is that right? Al-Haramain.
Haramain. Okay, thank you. Seta was convicted in September 2010 of filing false tax returns connected to his funneling money to Chechen Mujahideen and is scheduled to be sentenced. Okay. The report in an interview, this goes on. Again, if you look at the organization, the only thing that makes it Zakat eligible is Jihad. This is the stuff we need. It's so simple. This is the thing that bothers me. Charities. The federal government could easily go and look at Islamic charities and see, they say they're Zakat eligible. Are they calling themselves Zakat eligible under Category 4? If they're saying that, what are they really saying? Are they picking Category 7? If they're picking Category 7, what are they really trying to tell us? And that's the things we need to look at. All right. How about this one? Islamic charities discovered again. We have Qatar Charity. French intelligence reported in 2013 that Qatar Charity funded an Al-Qaeda-linked terror group in Mali called Ansar Dine. It's also helped finance the 1998 Al-Qaeda bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. You know who else was there actively involved in that? The Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood. Let me just provide the Muslim Brotherhood link here. The International Institute of Islamic Thought was asked by ABC to take them to see bin Laden. This is shortly after the bombing of the Cole, USS Cole. They took with them 2 satellite phone battery packs that were used during the bombings of these 2 embassies. Thank you, Triple IT. Thank you, Muslim Brotherhood in the United States, for aiding in the killing of and attacking mostly of not our citizens, but the idea of attacking our embassies. And you can't tell me that the Muslim Brotherhood is a nice guy thing when they're involved with Al-Qaeda, involved in killing our people. Qatar Charities has legitimized itself through partnerships with mainstream Western charities, including the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Nice to know the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is connected with supporting of what? Yeah. Qatar Charity can only be eligible with Category 7. Unless they're giving money to the poor, and then you'd have to really prove it to me because they're spending a large amount of that money on terrorism. Think about it. And then there's a Prince of Wales Charitable Foundation also involved in this. Some of this stuff is just disgusting when you start to think about it. How about ISNA Canada? ISNA Canada.
Was that Prince Charles? Or?
Yes, I think it was. I go back.
Yeah, I can't.
Prince of Wales. Okay. Yeah, that would be Prince Charles. You're correct. ISNA Canada. Evidence suggests that ISNA Islamic Services facilitated donations that may have ended up in the hands of Hizbul Mujahideen, HM. As a result, they lost their charity status. ISNA Canada's ISNA Development Foundation charity. Again, hear that foundation development? That doesn't sound like anything that gives money to the poor, does it? Sounds like they're building. There's no reason for that to be called zakat if you're building a mosque. It doesn't work. It has to be category 7. And this is the stupidity of the people in the United States not knowing this. How can our intelligence service not know this information? This is the stuff that makes me angry, that it's impossible for them to not know this unless they are willingly ignorant. In July 2013, ISNA's Development Foundation charity status was revoked for raising funds that may have reached militants in Kashmir. In July of 2013, the Toronto Star reported that ISNA Canada may have funneled $280,000 to terrorists in Kashmir. Islamic charities. Here's another one. I wanted to read this one. I'm picking on Canada because it's right across the pond from me. Come on, work. Here we go. And I'll put this link right in the chat room. I'm going to tell people, just after I give this link in the chat room, you want to go there. It's a government Canadian site that I'm giving you. This will blow your mind. It is now this is by the government of Canada. It lists Irfan Canada as a terrorist entity. This was in 2014 on April 29th, out of Ottawa. The Honorable Stephen Blaney, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, today announced that the government of Canada has lifted the International Relief Fund of the Afflicted and Needy Canada, Irfan Canada, as a terrorist entity under the Criminal Code. Irfan Canada is not a for-profit organization operating in Canada. Between 2005 and 2009, Irfan Canada transferred approximately $14.6 million worth of its resources to various organizations associated with Hamas, a listed terrorist organization under the Criminal Code. Now, a lot of these organizations that I'm talking about today are still existing and still operating in many of the countries that United States. They're bringing them back. A lot of this started coming back under Obama. I don't have much respect for a person who brings back terror finance. Then there's the well-known Al-Qaeda terror finance organization known as the Benevolence International Foundation. Sounds like a nice thing. Benevolence sounds like you're giving, especially giving to the people who are needy. Where'd that money go? Well, this organization was created by bin Laden himself, and it directly financed Al-Qaeda. I believe this one was in, I think it was Midwest. I have to double check that one. All right. Here's another one. Zakat Foundation. Let me just, I'll put these links in the chat room. Double check me. I mean, all right. This one is, to me, probably, I went through, like I said, I did this research. It should be upsetting to everybody that we have these type of things going on. And how could we not know this stuff if we don't look at this requirement on all Muslims? This is the thing that has to be thought of now. If all Muslims must finance jihad, that means the Muslim down the street. That means your local mosque. Okay? All the people that go to these local, the Muslim Student Association, the Islamic Society of North America, all these people that show up at these events must be giving 12.5% of their zakat income towards jihad. So it's no surprise you find Islamic charities that are specifically doing that. Let's take a look at the link I put in for Zakat Foundation. It says this came out April 6, 2020. It was written by Abba Shankar and Martha Lee for the Investigative Project on Terrorism. A prominent American Islamic charity is publicizing its role in the nationwide coronavirus emergency response effort. Zakat Foundation of America stepped up its nationwide coronavirus emergency response, delivering thousands of direly needed medical grade gloves to two far south side safety net hospitals in Chicago, said the Illinois-based Islamic charity in a March 27th press release. We're all in as a frontline charitable provider, helping people survive COVID-19 on every level. Would that make them needy and not poor? Maybe it would work for that. Let's keep reading. Financially, medically, nutritionally, mentally, and spiritually, Executive Director Halil Demir said in this release. Halil, you say H-A-L-I-L. Did you catch that? I want you to pay attention to that name. He says this in the release. However, he spells his first name also as Khalil. K-H-A-L-I-L. Since its 2001 founding, the Zakat Foundation claims to have empowered millions of people to recover from disasters and escape poverty by taking control of their own lives. A timeline on the charity's website showcases its humanitarian accomplishments over the years. But behind the Zakat Foundation's outward humanitarian facade lie longstanding terror ties that have supported Hamas and Al-Qaeda-tied charities. A joint investigation by the Investigative Project on Terrorism in the Middle East Forum finds the misuse of Islamic charitable organizations to support terror is not new. Islamic charities have been known to use humanitarian assistance as a cover to solicit funds for terror groups. And I'm going to skip down in this article because this is the kicker. And let me just show you the kicker here. Halil Demir was also the public relations officer for the Benevolence International Foundation, which directly financed Al-Qaeda. Sounds like he got off pretty easy, doesn't it? And what did he do? He set up another organization to give money towards jihad. Think about it. Treasury Department designated BIF and related entities as terror financiers in 2002. The Illinois-based BIF and its director, Anam Arnaud, were charged the same year with misusing charitable contributions to support Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups overseas. Later, Arnaud confessed to using his charity to support Mujahideen fighters in Bosnia and Chechnya. Arnaud served as an administrator to Osama bin Laden. A UN Security Council report said at times dispersing funds on his behalf. He admitted that BIF solicited money for humanitarian needs, including refugees and orphans. Anytime you start mentioning orphans and you're talking about Islam, I start to think that they are using that money towards jihadis.
Hey, Paul, can I bring something up about that first article there, the Investigative Project? I was just glancing through that. It says that they gave this IRFAN Canada.
Yes.
gave over $14 million to Hamas associated organizations from 2005 to 2009.
Yes. Now, here's the catch. A lot of the organizations we're talking about are still allowed to exist, or they reorganize. See, Care Canada got caught doing the same thing. Care Canada no longer exists. Now they're the National Council of Canadian Muslims. Guess what? They have the same officers.
Really?
Yes.
So, okay, so let me just get this straight. Okay, so once they get busted for financing terrorist organizations, they shut down, they disband. Well, I mean, what is it, like a corporation or an LLC?
They
or
shut
something
down
like
the
that?
corporation, and that's how you look at it. They shut down they removed the charitable. It's no longer a charitable organization. They closed its bank accounts and everything.
Okay,
However,
so they close everything and then just open up a new corporation with a different name, but it's the same people running it, same offices,
yes,
same.
we had that happen here with
Wow.
it was Islamic Association of Palestine became CARE.
Yeah.
Islamic Association of Palestine got caught financing terrorism, and
But
now we have the Council on American Islamic Relations.
Didn't a bunch of those guys get put in prison though? I mean, isn't that am I
with
right
CARE?
on that?
No.
No, the first one, the Islamic Organization of Palestine that you were talking about. Did they get?
They got for different crimes, but not related to their financing of terrorism.
Oh,
for
okay.
different
So
crimes.
it was just other crimes other than financing terrorism. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. This is the scary, sick, sad truth. One of the reasons I know as much as I do on this is because of my studies in intelligence analysis. I had to do some papers on this stuff, and I still am vastly shocked. The one I'm going to tell people, I'm going to put this new link in, and I'm going to have you look at this. I'm going to pull this up on the screen. So let me go back and stop sharing my screen. This one will blow everybody's mind. Okay. Now, we just talked about Halil, and he had been the leader of the Benevolence Association, International Foundation, right? Okay. Wait till you see this. Halil is actually Khalil Demir. Can everybody see this?
Yep.
All right. So it says our leadership team. Okay. The guy who was behind financing Al Qaeda. All right. Okay. This is for Zakat Foundation. Okay. This is his daughter. Okay. So he's got the family involved. Does anybody know who this is? Eric, do you know who that is?
No, I have no idea who it is, but just looking at her reminds me of that one lady and that guy that were out in San Bernardino, and it just looks like that lady with makeup on. I mean, just I'm sorry. I don't mean to be so shallow about it, but
so this is Asma Mirza's sister. Asma Mirza. Let's think about that. Okay. Her father was the head of ISNA. Think about it.
they not only believe in nepotism, but they practice it. It sounds.
Oh, yes. This is one of the reasons why it's called Muslim Brotherhood organizations are said to have a incestuous relationship. So she will lead another organization. She's a CMO here. They trade. It's a normal thing, unfortunately. Then you see Nasreen Amira, Raza Farouk. Again, we start looking at these names and where they are and what they're doing, and it just starts to it hits you when you start to look at these things. This stuff, unfortunately, we do not talk about this kind of stuff enough. And I have been, like I said, I've been working on this for a while, but and I hit the wrong button here. Just a second. Share. Where's that share? Share screen window. Okay. So let me just keep going on here. This is what I'm talking about. We're disbanded organizations. I'm going to grow this a little bit more so everybody can see this. All right. I apologize. I grew this as much as I could on the screen. Are these organizations getting regrouped? Absolutely. Holy Land Foundation, disbanded, remember? So the HLF chairman was fundraising advisor, and he shared a bank and accounts overseas, and he used the Islamic Association of Palestine. What did they create and fundraise? They created the Kind Hearts for Charitable Humanitarian Development, who's founded in 2002, and the assets of U.S. assets were frozen in the U.S. by the U.S. Department of Treasury in 2002. Think about that. Now the fund going down that same side, former HLF fundraiser, now AMP board member, shares a board member, shares a donor organization with HLF. Think about that. Going down the other side, we have Islamic Association of Palestine, which later became CARE. IAP director became KH representative in Illinois, which is that Kind Hearts. They fundraised for Kind Hearts after HLF shut down. Again, they got shut down in 2002. Going down again, that other side, again, IAP became CARE. They share two board members. With American Muslims of Palestine. The former IAP director, identified by AMP as its executive director, the former IAP president is now doing American Muslims for Palestine's taxes. AMP tax preparer's office is in the Islamic Association of Palestine's old building. So these organizations are coming back. And this is something to think about. All right.